It's a lie that Americans have been told so often that most of them accept it unquestioningly as the truth. Even university-educated Americans who believe that they are sophisticated enough to distinguish Jewish propaganda lies from the truth. This is the way the Flame ad begins, and I quote, "Joseph Goebbels, the infamous propaganda minister of the Nazis, had it right. Just tell people big lies often enough, and they will believe them." End of quote. The message there is clear. The Nazis advocated fooling the people by telling them big lies and repeating those big lies frequently, right? We've all been told that 1,000 times, haven't we? We learned it in school. We heard it on television. Half the politicians in Mr. Bush's government undoubtedly have warned us at one time or another about the Nazi big lie propaganda technique. Usually, however, the principal Nazi advocate of the big lie is named as Adolf Hitler rather than Joseph Goebbels. We've all heard about Hitler's big lie technique, and so we all should be grateful to the Jews for warning us about it, right? I mean, no matter what we think about Jews otherwise, we at least owe them for warning us about Nazi lies, don't we? You know, I used to believe that myself, but I was fortunate enough to know someone who told me that it wasn't so. This person told me that neither Hitler nor Goebbels had advocated the big lie technique for deceiving the public. He told me that the opposite was true, that in fact Hitler, far from advocating the use of the big lie, had warned his people that the Jews use this big lie technique and that the German people should be wary of it. Well, when I hear something like that, my tendency is to check it out for myself. I don't accept many things on faith. And when my friend told me that Hitler had neither invented nor advocated the big lie, after I had heard so many times in school and on TV that Hitler had done those things, at first I didn't believe him. I checked it out for myself, and that's what you should do. I got a copy of Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, from the library, and I read what Hitler wrote back in 1926 about propaganda and lying and about the Jews. You know, Mein Kampf is still in print today. If you can't find an English translation of the book in your local library, you can buy a copy from Amazon.com or from Barnes & Noble. Or better, you can buy a copy from the sponsors of this program, National Vanguard Books. They stock and sell the original German edition and 2 different English translations. Anyway, I'll read to you exactly what Hitler wrote about the big lie. I'll read from the Ralph Manheim translation that is currently published in this country by the Houghton Mifflin Company. In Chapter 10 of the first volume of Mein Kampf, Hitler writes about the role of Jewish Marxist propaganda in bringing about the collapse of the German war effort during the First World War and then blaming that collapse on German General Erich Ludendorff. I quote, "It required the whole bottomless falsehood of the Jews and their Marxist fighting organization to lay the blame for the collapse on that very man who alone, with superhuman energy and willpower, tried to prevent the catastrophe he foresaw and save the nation from its time of deepest humiliation and disgrace. By branding Ludendorff as guilty for the loss of the World War, they took the weapon of moral right from the one dangerous accuser who could have risen against the traitors to the fatherland. In this, they proceeded on the sound principle that the magnitude of a lie always contains a certain factor of credibility, since the great masses of the people, in the very bottom of their hearts, tend to be corrupted rather than consciously and purposely evil, and that, therefore, in view of the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more easily fall victim to a big lie than to a little one, since they themselves lie in little things, but would be ashamed of lies that were too big. Such a falsehood will never enter their heads, and they will not be able to believe in the possibility of such monstrous effrontery and infamous misrepresentation in others. Yes, even when enlightened on the subject, they will long doubt and waver and continue to accept at least one of these causes as true. Therefore, something of even the most insolent lie will always remain and stick, a fact which all the great lie virtuosi and lying clubs in the world know only too well and also make the most treacherous use of. The foremost connoisseurs of this truth regarding the possibilities in the use of falsehood and slander have always been the Jews, for after all their whole existence is based on one single great lie, to wit, that they are a religious community while actually they are a race. And what a race! One of the greatest minds of humanity has nailed them forever as such in an eternally correct phrase of fundamental truth. He called them the great masters of the lie. And anyone who does not recognize this or does not want to believe it will never in this world be able to help the truth to victory. End of quote. Now I ask you, does that sound as if Hitler invented the big lie or was advocating its use? Or does it sound as if he were condemning this as a Jewish technique and warning his fellow Germans about it? What do you think? It's too bad he didn't warn us Americans too, because over here the Jews have used the very technique against which Hitler warned in 1926, to put the blame for this technique on Hitler himself. I guess that all it takes is enough chutzpah, as they proudly call it, and it certainly took chutzpah on the part of the Jews who wrote that flame ad accusing the Palestinians of being interlopers in Palestine, and furthermore accuses them of using the big lie technique when the Palestinians charge that it is the Jews, not they, who are the interlopers. The brazenness of the Jews really takes one's breath away.